Mrs. Mendez Garcia,
Present. Present.
Mr. Segrist,
Present.
and Ruedas present. And now we will move to our flag salute, and if I can have Mrs. Cobian lead us in the flag salute this evening.
Sure, everyone please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Moving on to our items of interest this evening, beginning with item number 1, our summer programs presentations. And I will pass it over to Dr. Teresa Pinedo.
I actually just gave her a little bit of a look because I wanted to take this opportunity to formally introduce our new Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Teresa Pinedo.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
The mics are a little low.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Or yeah, okay. Thank you. Good evening. President Ruedas, Governing Board, I'd like to start off by first thanking you for this opportunity. I hope I don't get emotional. I love this community. I have loved serving this community this is my 24th year now. Starting off as a teacher and an assistant principal and a principal, and then as a director of instruction. And it has been a great joy to work with this team. And so I'm looking forward to our continued work together to support the students and families of the El Monte community. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Madam President, may I ask a question?
Absolutely. Mr.
What
Segrist.
school did you work as a principal? Where?
I was the principal at Rio Vista School for 5 years.
That's the school that has the wonderful program for autistic children, right?
Yes.
Thank you for doing that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was truly a pleasure to work there and actually a blessing as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome, Dr. Teresa Pinedo.
Thank you so much. So this evening, I'm excited to present to you, Ms. Ruedas and President Ruedas and Governing Board. Sorry if I'm a little nervous. We had a very productive summer. We were very busy this summer, and so I'd like to present to you some of our programs that took place, both for our students and our families. So this summer, we had our in-person intervention and enrichment program, our virtual summer academy that we started a couple of years ago. Of course, we offered our migrant education, our Rio Hondo CTE program, our TK and Kinder Readiness program, and summer parent programs as well. For our in-person instruction, we held it at all 14 sites. This is the first time that we have been able to offer this, and we were so excited to do this because we know that we will get a lot more participation having it at each of the school sites, and so we were able to offer it at all 14 sites. We provided 4 weeks of intervention and enrichment activities to over 1,700 students. Our intervention included reading and math interventions using our SIPS program, using our iReady tools for instruction and small group instruction in math. And that included number sense routines and a new curriculum that we used for this summer called Do the Math. Our enrichment included different STEAM activities, including engineering is elementary curriculum, and then some art and literacy lessons tied to the engineering curriculum that were created by the Office of Instruction. The TOSAs did that. And the fun part about this is students who were engaged with Learn after the summer after the day was over and they stayed with Learn, they engaged in activities such as a magician school, folklorico, there was some heritage language classes and martial arts as well. And we had 7 fabulous summer school principals who supported all 14 sites, so they each had 2 sites, and they were very busy this summer. And they provided school-wide spirit activities to engage the students and help them to feel connected to their schools. And they receive weekly incentives for consistent attendance. Wow. And again, we started our virtual academy during when we were closed to in-person instruction. And it continues to be something that our students enjoy. We had approximately 500 students participate in our 2-week program. And they engaged in questions such as, how does the past affect the future? How can we desalinate water to survive in the ocean? What algorithm can I apply to solve a Rubik's Cube? And, who is Bad Bunny? And how can I use a journal to set goals and stay organized? And all of this, I think this is really fun because it's something that students may not have thought about they may have never thought about, but it interested them because the teachers create kind of an advertisement for that class, and so it pulled them in, and the teachers have a lot of fun because this is an area of interest for them. We had our Migrant Ed program, where students were able to practice their reading and writing skills using Scholastic Lit Camp. They were engaged in math skill development and, gained confidence in scientific inquiry skills as well. They went to the Arboretum, and they had parent workshops on family self-esteem, positive discipline, and mental health. Classes were offered to students from pre-K to 7th grade and parents, and it was held during the entirety of our summer program from 8 to 12:30, and breakfast and lunch were provided. We had approximately 51 students and 16 parents participate. And then we had our career exploration summer camp at Rio Hondo College, where students learned all about providing first aid, participating in podcasting, and solar engineering. And we had a very fun and eventful TK and Kinder Readiness program where our incoming TK students and kindergarten students participated in online learning opportunities. We had about 178 participants. Parents attended classes online as well. And then we had family learning nights for math and literacy and social emotional learning. And students participated in activities with their parents, and they were so excited to participate, to know that they were going to start school. It really got them ready and excited about becoming our future students. In terms of parent programming, we had summer parent programs. We had 2 of them to support reading and basic ESL, as well as summer activities to engage the entire family in language and literacy, writing, math, health and wellness, SEL, and STEAM. These 2 programs were the Latino Literacy Project, and we had students or parents and students who were reading in both English and in Spanish. And then Raising a Reader Swimmer Learning Adventures, where families were provided with 10 to 15-minute daily adventures to do together with their children. And that is it. We had, like I said, we had a very, very busy summer, wonderful programming for our families and our students.
Congratulations, Dr. Pinedo. At this time, do we have any questions for Dr. Pinedo from our board?
I have a quick question. Can you hear me? How did the 2-week program work with the questions? How was that scheduled? Was it like several teachers, one teacher? Was it like the whole 2 weeks, like one question?
The virtual academy? Mm-hmm. Yes, we had over 20 teachers, and they had over 500 students, or just about 500 students. And they all had different types of classes that they held. So one was actually how to solve a Rubik's Cube, or geometry and art. They had different topics. And so the teachers provide proposals in an area that interests them, that they know will be fun and engaging and a wonderful learning for students during the summer. And then they kind of create like a little commercial or advertisement, and that's how the students know what to sign up for, because it's what interests the student. And in the last year, when we offered the in-person and virtual, they took place simultaneously. This year, we waited till in-person was over, so that those students who were in in-person instruction could also participate in virtual.
If I can just add, this has been such a successful model for us, so we know that it will stay with us, well beyond the pandemic. We are so confident that this is just a great program for kids, and just the feedback that we've gotten back from kids, that we actually applied for a CSBA Golden Bell for this program. So fingers crossed it will be recognized by CSBA, but we just know that it's a really good way to, like, I thought you were going to ask, did they solve who is Bad Bunny, or, the
Question.
right, because I think there's just some fun questions that can, be brought into this academic setting, and then kids just learn a variety of skills that will just make them stronger learners and critical thinkers.
Absolutely. Mr. Segrist.
Yes, as a chaotic thinker, I'm wondering who Bad Bunny is. I'm going to find out when I get home. Also,
I recommend you look in YouTube when
I
you're
will.
looking at Bad Bunny,
Okay.
Mr. Segrist.
thank you. And I've noticed a term there, or an acronym, STEAM. Most districts I see, they always call it STEM. So you put an A in there, right? So it's not just STEM. It's still, what is the A for?
That's for the arts.
For the arts.
Yes.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pinedo. Any other questions? I have a question, Dr. Pinedo, and on the 2-week summer academy, are teachers still finding any challenges from being virtual?
This summer, I don't believe we heard so much of that. I think now, after our learning curve of the first year of being in distance learning, students know how to engage both ways, in person and online. And so they have access. They keep their Chromebooks over the summer. They have, if they need a hotspot, they can get a hotspot from us. And so, no, they're able to fully participate. And the teachers are used to it now. The students are used to it.
And I'll just speak a little bit more to why we think it's an award-winning program. So the teachers put together this 2-week curriculum, and then they create a supply list. The district packages each, for a bag for each student, depending on how many classes they sign up for, and they get all the necessary tools, supplies, resources to be very successful with the class. So it's just it's just done to perfection. And it's not saturating kids with, online learning. I mean, as you know, nowadays you can sign up for a variety of classes that are of interest and fun, through these online platforms. And so the idea is to kind of create that type of momentum here with our students as well. It's not extended. Attendance is excellent, really great participation. And then I think the choice makes all the difference. Kids get to select how they want to engage.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Thank you, Dr. Pinedo. And I was going to ask about attendance. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions from our board? With that said, okay, thank you so much for the amazing presentation, Dr. Pinedo. And we will move on now to our second item, the SBAC data presentation. Pass it over to you again.
Yes, President Rueda's Governing Board, it is my pleasure to introduce Jessica Pardini, our EdTech Coordinator, to present on our CASP preliminary results. As you know, we have not taken a CASP since the year 2018-2019, and so this is a baseline foundational year for us, and Ms. Pardini will share the outcomes of this assessment. And I need to
We're all scrambling, looking for the magic clicker. Thank you very much.
It's not in the metaverse yet, where you just
Right?
imagine it and it changes.
Or yeah, I want to do my Bewitched with my nose. That was my era. Dr. Garcia, cabinet members, President Ruedas, board members, and colleagues. It's great to be back. It's great to be back here to be presenting to you. We took a break from CASP for a couple of years in this time we know as pandemic learning, right? And the state had taken some time and said, we're going to take a break from the CASP. Last year, we presented you with iReady data because that's what we did for our district, but now we're back. And we took the CASP last year, and I'm really excited to be able to present this to you tonight. So just a reminder, because it's been a while, that these are preliminary. This is preliminary data. So when it's official, it will be presented at this website, casp.cde.ca.gov. And for right now, it's preliminary data, but it's data that we're allowed to share with you and to be able to share at our sites. We presented this also to our admin this summer so that they were ready to share it with their staffs and be able to make plans based on the data from day one. So I'm just going to take you on a little bit of a history just because I feel like it's been so long. So remember, we get scaled scores for each student, and there's bands at each grade level. And so what this is showing you is the bottom lowest attainable score all the way to the highest attainable score at each grade level, and then you can see the bands are set there within them. And the only reason that I wanted to show this to you again is because there was something interesting that happened in, actually not last year, but the year before. And it was that they changed the scale score, highest attainable score and lowest attainable score. And if you look on here, you can see the lighter score is the old one and the darker score is the new one. It only affects really the highest attainable and lowest attainable score. It doesn't affect the cut scores within the bands. And so these were what they used for 2020-21 and moving forward. So these are the scores that we'll use from here on out. And this is it for English Language Arts. And then these are the old scores for math, and here are the new ones moving forward. And you can see really, I mean, even in the lowest attainable score on this one, you can see sometimes it was 1 point in a grade level, so it's not even really visible on this chart. But you can see the highest attainable score did move a little bit. A couple other changes that have happened, and I'm sure you've already heard, is that the computer adaptive test was reduced by 50%. So there were less questions. All of the claims were equally represented as they were before, proportionately to what they were before. The performance task remained the same. And there I have the bullet there. There were comparable proportional allocation of content across the claims, and also a proportional depth of knowledge. So they tried to make sure that they continued to leave the rigor the same and the claims the same so that the scores could be comparable eventually down the road. But because this is new, and because they really needed to do some work to correlate the assessments, they've decided that this year they weren't going to present us with claims data by individual student. Now, eventually, when this data becomes public, we will be able to see it by large groups, but we don't have any data on claims right now like I usually prepare for you because they haven't released it yet. Okay, so this slide here is for English Language Arts, and what it's showing you is our mean test score, so our average test score per grade level for the year 2019 and the year 2022. And like I said, they're not the same tests, so really comparing them is a little bit off, but because they kept the proportions equal, I think it's interesting to look at anyway. And so we can kind of see here the 2019 scores are that blue line, and then the purple line is 2022 or last year. And you can see here that our average scores in 3rd and 4th grade were lower than in 2019, but our 7th grade score was way high, way above where our average score was in 2019. And then this is our math average scores, average scale scores. So again, you can see the light blue color is 2019 and the purple is 2022. So a little bit behind. I think it's important to mention at this point that during the pandemic, there was lots of talk about how we thought our kids were going to be so far behind, right? We were just going to be, I don't know, big canyons away from where we were before. And we really aren't seeing that, which is a great thing for our district. It's great to see all of the hard work that was put in by teachers and administrators and students especially paid off. We do have some areas that we're looking at because we know they're lower than they were when we took the scores in 2019. But it gives us really targeted areas now to look at and grade levels and students specifically that we can work with to help them to make sure that they're making the progress that they need to make. We also look at the scores by achievement levels, and I know you guys have seen this a million times, but just as a reminder, I didn't know who would be in our audience this evening. When we talk about the scores, a lot of times what we look at is standard met and standard exceeded. So the percent of students that were on these achievement levels, we add them together to say the percentage of students that are on grade level. Because students who are at standard met, they say demonstrate progress towards the mastery of the standards, or they've met the standards for that grade level with a sufficient amount of progress. And our standard exceeded, of course, are students that are demonstrating advanced progress. So here we can see our English language arts and math scores, how our students were scored in 2021-22. And again, we're going to look, red is standard not met, yellow is standard nearly met, green is standard met, and blue is standard exceeded. So we're going to kind of look at this and we're going to say, okay, in English language arts, 46% of our students scored at grade level. And in math, 35% of our students scored at grade level. And we also want to really look at our other colors as well. We want to make sure that our yellows are growing and our reds are declining, right? We want our students out of that standard not met, moving up the scale towards standards met. So here we see English language arts only, a 2-year comparison. And again, I want to just caution you when you're looking at this. This is 2018-19 long form versus 2021-22, 50% reduced on the CAT test. So when we're looking at this, we can see that in 2018-19, we had 51% of our students in the standard met or exceeded, and in 2021-22, 46% of our students are still in standard met or exceeded. And we can see that the yellow stayed strong, it stayed the same. And we can see that there was a little bit of an increase in the red. Here are our math scores. Again, we can see 40% of our students on grade level in 2018-19, and that 35 in 21-22. Our yellows are about the same, and our reds increased just a little bit. Oh, it says still waiting on CAST and CAW. It should say still waiting on CAW. These are our CAST scores that I'm about to show you. So remember, CAST is the California Science Test, and it's taken in 5th and 8th grade. So here you can see our scores for 2021-22. We have 24% of our students in 5th grade on grade level or above, and in 8th grade, 26%. But this is a really exciting one to show you, because here's our 2-year comparisons. And if you look at this, the first row is 2018-19, and the second, column, not row. The second column is 2021-22. So what we see here is 25% in 5th grade, and then last year, 24%, which we didn't have a big drop. But what's even better is look at our red. We did have a decline in red, so those students are moving up to the yellow. They're getting better at it. And when we look at our 8th grade, we're looking at 25% versus 24%. But again, look at our red, a bigger decrease of 6%. Next, I'm going to show you our grade level comparisons. Here we have the scores for English language arts for 2021-22. And again, we're looking at the blue and the green, and we can really look to see how our students are doing. And we can really see that some of the things to take note of are our 3rd and 4th graders, even 5th. Our a little bit lower, but in 7th and 8th grade, we're much stronger. And we know this, right? So our 3rd and 4th graders are our students that were in distance learning for their very, very, very beginnings of learning how to read and how to write and how to do language arts. And so we're aware of that, and we're working with those students to help them to increase their basic literacy skills so that they are going to continue to work at grade level for their future careers as scholars. And we're seeing some great progress for our students that are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Now, I didn't prepare comparative data for you on all of these because it's, actually, I think I did do it for the grade levels. I did do it for grade levels, so I'll show you. Here we go. Here's our 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And again, remember, cautiously comparing. We can see a little bit of a decrease in those early grades, but increase even during pandemic learning in our 7th and 8th grade, which is kind of exciting. So our students who are staying with us over time are improving, which is great. Here are our math scores by grade level. Here our 3rd graders are outperforming other grade levels. And we can see here historically that has been true. So on these pages, we didn't create cohorts for you like we have in the past, where we'll take the same kids and show them every year as they move through the grade levels, because we had 2 big years of gap. But if you really wanted to compare, you could kind of look at these 3rd graders in 2018-19 were 6th graders in 2021. Our 4th graders were 7th graders. Our 5th graders were 8th graders. So you could kind of get an idea. It's not going to be an exact match cohort. You can kind of get an idea of how our students are doing as they move through the grade levels. Again, cautiously comparing because they are 2 different tests. And here are our subgroups. Now, subgroups is where I did not prepare comparative data for you. And the reason for that is not only is it 2 different tests, but our subgroups change drastically in a couple of years, right? Especially our subgroups that have low numbers of students. It could be a completely different group of students. So I just prepared for you the percentages for 21-22. So you can see here. And I only prepared for you subgroups of students that we have at least 30 throughout the district or more. So you can see here how our Asian students did, our Black African American students, our Hispanic Latino students, our white Caucasian students. That was in language arts. This is the same students in math. And when I say same students, it's mostly the same students, although remember that students that have come here from other countries and English is not their first language don't always take the English language arts exam the first year, but they do still take the math exam. So there might be a few more students taking the math than the language arts. I don't want to rush you, but I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight, and you have copies, so we'll continue. This is English language arts for our language acquisition status, by language acquisition status. So we can see our ELs, our EOs, our IFEPs, and our RFEPs. And what's interesting about this is if I were to compare to the past, our ELs, which is a pretty big group, actually did better than they did in 18-19. They're usually our group that struggles the most when we're looking at language acquisition level. So that's kind of a nice thing to note. And here are our math scores. Again, English language learners did better than they did in 18-19. And then these are our programs. So 504, foster youth, homeless, migrant ed, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and special ed students. And how they did in English language arts. And how they did in math. And that's my presentation for you tonight. Like I said, it's a little bit smaller and shorter than it would have been in the past, but we hope next year I'll be able to give you really great comparisons and be able to show you all kinds of data. We're hoping to be able to triangulate more data points, not just academics, but bring in other things to help look at those together. So we'll be looking forward to presenting that to you in the future. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them now.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Mr. Segrist.
I always like to defer to the ladies. I have a question here. How do you identify a child that's taking the test, the ethnicity? Added to that, what about a child that has 2 or more ethnicities? Are you able to handle that?
Yes, so that's an interesting question because the way that the ethnicity and race has been handled in the past has changed a little bit. And we get our numbers from CalPADS. So they self-identify, and those numbers get reported through CalPADS to the state, and then the state matches those to the test scores based on what's reported through CalPADS.
The reason I'm saying that is that my son always had this habit of identifying himself as all ethnicities, so he would have really messed up your your result. And added, is it possible to disaggregate by gender? Can you do that?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I love your presentation, by the way. It's beautifully done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist.
Yeah,
Ms. Mendes.
I just had a couple of questions. One is going back on the, I think it was like the 4th or 5th slide, the one that had the purple line that jumped a lot.
Yes.
Is there, have you looked, or is there like, what caused that? Or is there a specific skill that they did really well at that caused that?
So that's definitely a point that we want to look deeper into to figure out what's going on. We have had some really great scores in the 7th grade this year. The students did really well. So we're going to drill down to look at the different classes, to look at the different students, to try and find that trail to figure out what's happening so that we can replicate it for sure.
Sure.
I don't know, Dr. Pinedo, if you wanted to add about math, what's going on in math?
This one is this in language
grade
arts or in math? I'm sorry?
We're talking about the 7th grade math having high scores this year. Was there anything particular that you wanted to add?
Specifically in 7th grade math, can you change the slide, Jessica? This one's ELA, so if
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
ELA.
This is ELA.
Yes.
That's the one she was asking about, ELA.
Yes.
I apologize, not math.
So I think it's that recommitment to our minimum course of study for StudySync that our teachers, utilize to guide their instruction. And it's also that commitment to their PLC. They're really good at planning together. Specifically in the upper grades, the content teachers do a lot of planning together, looking at their data together, and identifying areas of need for our students.
Ms. Kobian, I apologize. You were talking about the language arts one, right?
Yes.
Yes, I apologize for that.
okay.
I don't know why I said math. There's been a lot of great things that are happening in math too in our district. I think I just had that on my head.
I do want to say, if I may, that while we are happy with our scores in the sense that we were anticipating, we've really been monitoring our iReady scores. iReady gives us projected proficiency so that we can compare what iReady projects us to be on the SBAC and where we end up. And so we utilize the tools in iReady to really plan and prepare ourselves for the assessment and also instruction, most important, right, in student learning. And so based off of what we had seen in the spring, we had started to plan for this year and what that was going to look like. So we celebrate that it wasn't as big as a gap as we anticipated it was going to be, but there's a gap nonetheless, and we want to address that. And so in language arts, we are making a strong commitment to foundational skills in the kinder through 2nd grade, and partially through 3rd grade as well, because these young students have not, some of them missed a large portion of their in-person instruction. And so we really want to make sure that we're targeted and intentional with those foundational skills in those grades. In grades 3 through 5, really making a commitment to small group instruction again, guided reading, utilizing our intervention teachers, yay, thank you, and also focusing on writing. And so many of our teachers, and I'll be sharing later, were trained in Step Up to Writing this summer. And then in math, areas of need as well is a commitment to small group instruction in math, both that whatever happens in whole group will be supported in the small group as well, focusing on number sense routines, on fluency, and on problem solving during small group instruction as well. And so we're very excited about where we're going in language arts and in math to meet the needs of our students and to address the learning recovery that needs to take place still.
Okay, Mrs. Rivas.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation and for your recap on kind of what the response to the data is. I always appreciate the commitment, right? The commitment to ensure that we're just always doing better and better and better. Overall, my response to the data is, certainly, of course, we have numbers that we want to improve, but this wasn't the dire situation that people were predicting when the pandemic began. And I think that's because you all kept working really hard, and our teachers kept working hard, and our students did as well. And we kept the environment really great for students to continue to learn, even during the pandemic and the return last year. So it seems to me that the numbers are saying it wasn't that bad, or it wasn't as bad as maybe they said that it was going to be. And then especially with the science data that you showed us, when we're actually comparing apples to apples, we see a real improvement. So so that's really pretty extraordinary. Yeah, it's exciting and really very extraordinary. So I'm just pretty pleased and pretty proud of the team of people that make this happen.
Thank you. And I think that small amount that we did see of a I don't know if we would call it a drop, but change in score is motivating too, right? It makes us want to know more. It makes us want to drill down. It makes us want to find out what's happening so that we can meet the needs of our students. So it's an exciting place to be.
It is. And to the point that you made earlier, which is probably made every single year, is that the longer that the students stay in our district, the better they do, right?
That's exciting, right?
And so I think that just tells a story of a lot of hope for all of our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to piggyback about the science as well. I'm thinking that as we go into the new science adoption, that the students will begin to have a little more consistency that will prepare them more directly for this. So I'm kind of excited to see where we show up next year and the year after as well.
Yeah, me too.
And also, thinking about, these students, testing in the 5th grade or the 8th grade, they missed at least a year and a half of in-person, hands-on, what science really is about. I mean, I know there were things that were distributed to home, but, not quite the same thing. But to see that is really good, because it means there's some foundation there that is still strong. So thank you. I appreciate it.
If I can just say, I think, I appreciate the comments on the data. My biggest takeaway is nothing compares to in-person instruction, right? And so we know that when kids are here, they do better. But to really understand, what this data means for us, it really, I think, spells out the commitment of the team altogether, staff, teachers, parents, students. There was this just full-blown commitment all around to meet this moment and to overcome it, right? So obviously our theme this year is Together We Rise, and that just shows evidence of how we did this together. And to say, we have a gap. There is work to be done, and we want to increase those numbers, but it's not just about the numbers. It's going to be about, really looking carefully at, what are those essential skills that our kids need to be, 21st century learners and be productive citizens for, this community and this country moving forward. And then we're going to make sure that we give them ample opportunities to show mastery, through academics, through experiences, through different types of opportunities, so that at the end of the day, the education that we provide is well-rounded and, really prepares our kids for the future. So this data is important. We call it autopsy data, right? It's from June. The start of the school year is Wednesday. We'll be getting started with some iReady assessment. But the wonderful news is that, we've been looking at all this very carefully, and we have some plans for how to address, some of these learning gaps.
Thank you.
Ms. Mendez.
I just had one question. How's this
Oh, I'm sorry.
information being provided to parents so that they know all of this, right? So they're not panicking.
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
How the
How-
information is being shared with parents.
So this is an opportunity, but until the data is finalized, it's not shared until it goes public. And then once it's public, it's on that website, the CASP website that I had shown on, I think it was slide 3, is where the public will be able to see it, our parents will be able to see it, and then we can have informational meetings with them as well. Now, that's the district-wide data, but we also have what's called student score reports, which are individualized student score reports, and those go out at the very beginning of the school year. So those we're getting them ready right now to be able to send them out to parents so that parents can see how their student did individually on all of the assessments. So that should be coming out within the next couple of weeks.
In addition to that, Ms. Mendez, I'm sorry, Mrs. Mendez Garcia, we have our site administrators present this information to their parents as well during parent meetings such as ELAC or their coffee with the principal meetings. They also provide site data for the parents.
Great question.
Could I ask one more question?
Mr. Seegers, sure.
There was a number up there, and I don't understand what it was. It was 504. It was a category, I believe, of students. It's 504. There was homeless, and there were different categories. What was?
A 504.
504.
Plan. I think maybe one of our cabinet members could probably explain that better to you than I can. Can somebody help me out with
I
explaining
don't
what a
know what
504
it
plan
was.
is?
I just saw 504.
It's for students that have a special plan with a special academic
Okay,
plan
so it's
for
like,
them.
okay, it's a special category.
But they're not in special ed.
So
So for other reasons, they have qualified
Okay.
to have an extra plan to help us to monitor them and
That's
make
what it
sure
was.
that they're on target as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, you did well. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so similar to an IEP, it's usually students who probably have a medical need or something of that nature.
Okay.
And so the 504 plan is just designed to ensure that they have the accommodations afforded them, but it's not necessarily a student who's identified for special education. It's a separate plan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I mean, the questions that we brought forward, and your answers just really, truly inspires this unity that everyone has, the motivation, the commitment to addressing the learning gap of our students. And as we did see, not that great, not that much as we all thought the pandemic was going to create. But nevertheless, as you mentioned, the motivation is there, and until we increase it, right? And we're going to keep pushing and really addressing, and as you mentioned, the commitment that all of you have for our students. So that is really here, and it's truly inspiring. So thank you so much for this presentation.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to our communication section of today's agenda. Continuing with public comments. Do we have any public comments at this time? No public comments. Any written communications? No written communications. Okay. Continuing with board members, beginning with Mrs. Kobian.
Thank you. I wanted to share that I attended the new student welcome that was last week. Sorry, the dates all blur together. It was really great to see all of the principals out welcoming the new students, the new families that were coming to our district, and just really appreciate this. I think it's the second year we've done it, but just the attention that's given to make people feel like they're welcome, they have resources, they have someone to connect to. And so that was really wonderful. Also participated in the Back to School Resource Fair this past Saturday, which was also really well attended by the community. It was a slightly different format than in previous years, so that was a little more festive environment. There were some student performances, and I think looking forward at what the event could become. So I think that was really neat to see all of the community out supporting students in that way. And then the last thing I just wanted to share, and also, possibly for a future update as well, is the state's going to be launching the Cal Kids program, which is providing college savings money for students, for almost all students, I believe. And I think our district will be having some information because there's some stuff kids need or families need from the schools to be able to make sure they can access that. But I think it's a really great direction for the state to be going in terms of that college readiness. I mean, even babies who are born this year will be getting accounts. So we're following in good footsteps of other states and other communities that have that as well. So I think it's a good opportunity for everyone. And just looking forward to the start of school coming up. So my kids are ready. I know a lot of other kids are ready and excited with their backpacks and everything and ready to go. So definitely looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Mrs. Mendez-Garcia.
Hey, everyone. Ms. Coban, you stole all my highlights.
Oh, sorry.
No, but it's just so great to see that we're having, again, that new student fair. That's just so unique that I've never come across. So proud of the district. And thank you, Jeff Seymour Center. Again, it just shows what we're able to do when we have that type of community school and we're able to host those type of events. And then again, just highlighting the Almani Resource Fair, I wasn't able to attend, but thanking the City of Almani, Parks and Recreation, and the Community Service Department for hosting that. And other than that, just wishing everyone a great, energized start of the school year. My district already started, so we are in full swing. So just sending everyone just positive vibes. And yeah, just really looking forward to the work we're doing. And so excited as well that with more in-person things that we'll be able to as well attend in-person events on campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez-Garcia. Mrs. Rivas.
Yeah, I'd also like to send my best wishes to everyone starting this new school year. There's a lot of great energy in the air and a lot of excitement. Just on a personal note, I was able to go to one of our schools, taking my my youngest to his new school in our district. Transferring from the K6 to the K8. And I was greeted by my oldest son's kindergarten teacher at this school. And yeah, so it was a pretty special moment. It's a little bit of a full circle moment for me, and really a wonderful reminder of the many ways that we impact each other, right, and that we're connected to each other, and really the love and support that exists in this community. So. I thought that school hosted a wonderful event. I'm sure the other schools were doing the same. A lot of, there's balloons and T-shirts for the new students and, students able to walk around the campus and see where their classrooms were going to be. So it was a nice environment there, and really looking forward to those first day of school pictures that will be flowing in very, very soon.
Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Mr. Segrist.
I have to apologize because I don't have sunglasses, but the sun is directly in my eyes, so I'll do my best. I had the privilege this morning of attending the back to school for the Almani Union High School District, and I was allowed to see their wonderful football field that I think is as nice as UCLA or USC or anybody like that. It's beautiful. You have to go see it. They were celebrating the employees that have been in the district for 20, 25, 30, even 40 years. And I did share with the superintendent, Dr. Eddie Zuniga, that we also celebrate our employees, which I say is wonderful because a lot of districts never think of doing that. Okay, bear with me. I learned this afternoon that our police chief, Ben Lowry, is in the hospital, so please keep him in your prayers. He has cancer, but he'll be okay, I'm sure. Let me start with this. I attended a Sunday. I went to the fiesta for the Assumption of the Virgin Mary. There were probably 900 Vietnamese there. Many of them came and asked me, when are we going to do a bilingual Vietnamese English program for dual immersion? One of the persons happens to be a teacher who told me that Cal State Fullerton has a credential for bilingual Vietnamese English teachers. And speaking of dual immersion, I know Steve has put this on the internet. We're recruiting for a 5th grade bilingual immersion teacher for Spanish. I saw that. That jumped right at me, so I'm trying to find somebody. Here's something else. A lot of people are asking us to have our meetings online like the high school does, because the high school district, you can watch their meetings, and it would help, I think, our community to learn a little more about what we do. Like tonight, I think the public would have really benefited from the presentations here, things that I learned that were wonderful, and they need to see that. I went down to the new Ortiz Plaza. If you haven't seen that or gone in there, it's a center for affordable housing. It's not just for single veterans, it's for families, and it's not very well populated yet. Wonderful facility. And a background, the Ortiz Plaza is named after one of our school graduates from years ago named Mac Ortiz, who was killed in Korea in 1950. His remains were brought back in 2019. So I think we should really publicize for our community Ortiz Plaza. There are a lot of openings there. One of the fellows told me there's hardly anybody there. Also, I ran across this also. I was at the community center today, and believe it or not, every park in El Monte is distributing free food from Food Bank. One is even giving away diapers, and our public needs to know about that, because I know some people that are picking up extra boxes and giving them to people that can't get there. So I will send Dr. Garcia one of the flyers on that, and maybe we could put it on Facebook. The more support, the better. This one also, musical instruments. In the summer, our kids do not have access to musical instruments. One of our well-known former police officers, Dan Glass, who's the trumpeter that did the taps at the ceremony for the 2 fallen officers, I brought this up, and he said, David, when you start children with musical instruments, you can't have them take a break. If you do, they're going to go to something else, or they'll just lose total interest in that. Okay, let's see. Finally, that's it. I hope everyone has a wonderful school year, and I'm so proud of our district. When I saw the program for the summer, I wish they would have had that when I was a kid for summer school, so thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sechrist. And as for me, just I want to wish our entire school community a happy school year. The beginning of the school year is also very exciting, right? Not only for our students, right, making new friends, a new teacher, but also for our families, for our teachers that love their profession, that love their student and their schools. So for our entire school community, well, let's welcome this new school year, and let's make the best of it. So wishing the best to all. Okay, and now we'll move on to our closed session for today. And for our closed session items pursuant to, beginning with A, Government Code 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal Release, and B, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Significant Exposure to Litigation, Government Code 54956.9, Subdivision D 2 or 3, 2 potential cases. We will be right back. Thank you.
Edna, I'm going to bring you some sunglasses next time for both parents. It's terrible. Working on it.
I was just going to ask, is it heavy?
Getting cold. I don't know if it's just me. Okay, we will resume our open meeting at 6:31 p.m. And during closed session, we discussed items A, Government Code 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, and B, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Significant Exposure to Litigation Government Code 54956.9, Subdivision D, 2 or 3, 2 potential cases. And during its just concluded closed session, the board voted to dismiss employee number KX 2853621 for cause and directed the deputy superintendent or designee to give the employee notice thereof. The vote was unanimous. And during its just concluded closed session, the board voted to approve the alternative dispute resolution agreement for student, date of birth 04/25/19. The vote was unanimous. And for the other item, no action was taken at this moment. And moving on, we will continue with our approval of minutes, beginning with item number 1, consideration of approval of minutes for the June 20th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on with item number 2, consideration of approval of minutes for the July 30th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion for this item?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Continuing with our report section, our 2021-2022 Williams Uniform Complaint Policy Quarter 4 Summary Report. Mr. Sollenbach.
Thank you, President Redas, Governing Board. Part of our requirements with Los Angeles County Department of Public Education, or Los Angeles County Office of Education. Wow, we've been doing the other one so much, right? The Department of Health. Every quarter, we're required to submit our Williams update. And so for the fourth quarter, which falls from April 1st to June 30th, which is from last year, in the area of instructional materials, facilities, or teacher vacancy or misassignments, we had 0 complaints filed. So that report has been submitted to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Sollenbach. For this, just remind me, we don't need a vote for this, right?
No vote
Okay.
needed, it's just sharing the report, the information with the board.
Okay, Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Sullenbach. Okay, moving on with our to our action consent agenda. Is there anyone, colleagues on the board, that would like to pull any item at this time?
Yes, 3, 4, and 5.
Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the action consent agenda minus items 3, 4, and 5?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Is
I'll
there a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, moving back to item number 3, Mr.
Okay,
Segrist.
I bring it up again about the Carol Sano Trust. It's the same amount year after year, and that means every year it's worth less money. So it's not fiscally, how do I say, safe, because you've got to do something with that. Otherwise, I mean, maybe is it invested at an interest rate or something, or it just sits there and little by little it gets eaten away? That's my only comment on that.
Sure, and I just want to acknowledge that, I know that that's a conversation we've had in the past. This is one of those situations where the pandemic did stop some of that planning. There is a consideration to use the Carol Sano of funds to continue to give the money to Frank Wright students and to work with the Almani Promise Foundation. Carol Sano's daughters don't live nearby, and so we have a retiree that was connecting with the daughters and sharing some information. I think they were going to connect them to the Almani Promise Foundation. So I'll find out where we are. I don't know if you have some information, Mrs. Cobian, but I'll definitely find out where we are and bring that information back, because the idea is that we do want to make sure that we expend those funds. And then at the same time, there is a commitment on our end to honor that original contribution that was shared with the district in honor of Carol Sano. So we are working on that, and definitely we'll resume that conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the
item number
motion to
3?
approve.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, now going back to item number 4, Mr. Segrist.
Okay. Item number 4. If I was looking at a contract for advanced alarm monitoring, could we somehow have, without announcing it, have someone come in and check and see if the system is working well? Like maybe the police department or somebody, maybe a plainclothes policeman, to see if there's anything we need to do to tweak it up?
Trust me, it works. There's been times where I'm not quick enough with the alarm, and it goes off, and the last thing I need is to be caught there, kind of like, I'm sorry for taking up your time. Our alarm system does work. I think it's great that we're always doing like periodic checks to make sure that the safety
Okay.
is important for us. And then as a reminder, we also have our cameras, and so we're able to log in remotely whenever there's any
Right.
activity, and figure out what's going on, and make sure that we report any unnecessary visitors to the campuses, et cetera, to the police department. So I appreciate the comment, because you do have to check on your own systems to make sure that they are functional,
Okay.
and it's something that we periodically do.
The reason I'm concerned is years and years ago, I thought I was really, really careful in my classroom when I was leaving it. I locked it very carefully. I found out that one of my students could take a wad of paper, stick it in a little part,
Oh.
even though I was doing like this, and was able to go into the room. So it never hurts to keep looking and making things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Do we have a motion for item number 4?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, continuing with item number 5, Mr. Segrist.
Number 5, I have a question about when we do these piggyback arrangements. Is it possible to go beyond school districts and tap into cities and community colleges and universities and city governments and even county? Is it, or are you just is piggyback only limited like to maybe the school districts? I don't really understand how it works.
Yes, that's definitely possible. So there's 4 examples on this piggyback arrangement. One of them is Amazon services and all the wonderful items you can buy off of Amazon. That one was through a cooperative, a purchasing cooperative through the state of Utah. But they met the requirements of California, so California school districts and other entities can piggyback off that. The state of California did the one for DI Technology Group for technology, hardware, Chromebooks, things like that. So that's an example where state of California, Department of General Services went ahead and issued a piggyback arrangement, and school districts can piggyback off that. You also have one through Valverde Unified School District. So to answer your question, Mr. Segrist, yes, if a community college, a school district, a city, a county, purchasing cooperative, some of these are out of state. If they follow the rules as specified in government code in California, we can piggyback off them. So there is this is a good item where we're piggybacking off of not only school districts, but cities and counties and other entities.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve item number 5?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Seekers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, we're moving on to our actions. And beginning with item number 1, consideration of approval of purchase orders. Mr. Herrera.
Thank you, Board President Ruedas and members of the governing board. Before you is 2 purchase order reports. The reason for that is the June purchase order report was not fully completed as of the last June board meeting. So we brought to you on June 20th purchases up through the middle of June. And just to make sure that they're in full transparency, we're bringing the second half of June along with the month of July purchases. There is 671 purchases totaling $15.4 million. It's a purchase order report that's quite extensive. We usually see that at this time of the year as we're setting up all of our blanket purchase orders for the upcoming year. So as not to allow for more efficiencies, we set up blanket purchase orders, right? Using projected expenditures that we're going to have with certain vendors for the year. It really helps to streamline our purchasing process. So about 4.6 million of that is child nutrition purchase orders, food supplies. We are part of the San Gabriel Cooperative Purchasing Group. We're one of 30 districts in that entity. And they go out and each member district will go ahead and bid out certain food products. One might bid bread, another might bid pizza, another might bid frozen goods. So the cooperative gathers all that information and we're able, as a member of the cooperative, to piggyback off that. That's makes up $4.6 million of the $15 million. $3 million of various utility companies, right? Whether it's our water bill, gas bill, electric bill, you name it, trash bill. So we are a large entity with a lot of properties and therefore our utility charges is fairly high. That is an area that we are looking at very closely as we are in a drought, as we're looking at our master plan and seeing how we can be more energy efficient. So we're hopeful that in future years, those purchase orders or that line item in the budget will not be increasing, hopefully decreasing. There's also some science adoption related purchase orders on this report and a plethora of other purchase orders for the upcoming fiscal year. We typically don't see an amount that large, but throughout the remainder of the school year, but the first board meeting or so of the fiscal year, there's a lot of activity from our school sites and from the district, and so we're happy to present to you the June and July purchase order reports for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Do we have a motion to approve item number 1?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Continuing with item number 2, consideration of approval of expanded learning opportunities program. Dr. Pinedo.
Thank you, President Ruedas, Governing Board. I am very proud to introduce Mr. Roberto Lopez Mena, our Director of Student Support Services. and Dr. Jacob Muniz, our new Coordinator of Enrichment and Engagement. They will be presenting our plan for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, which is before you this evening for consideration of approval.
Good evening. Good evening, President Redas, Governing Board, District Administrator, Superintendent Dr. Garcia, fellow employees. I would say guests, but I don't think we have one. Sorry. It's a humbling opportunity to be here in front of you to explain or share and give you a preview of a monumental opportunity that we have in front of us to provide programs of excellence for the students of El Monte City. And my name again is Jacob Muniz. So I have the privilege of sharing with you a presentation that we put together that represents the foundation of, sorry to add another acronym to your vocab, but the ELOP plan, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. What it really represents is an opportunity for us to innovate, and again, for us to provide sustained academic programs of excellence. That's the goal. Part of this opportunity is to make sure that we stay asset-based and asset-oriented to the strong programs that are already existing and longstanding in our district. So this is not throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is how do we build on the strengths of El Monte City and further make them robust in terms of program offerings for our students. The guiding principles for our Expanded Learning Opportunities Plan include being pupil-centered, that is student-centered, and laser-focused, again, on how to complement what we already have in place. During your traditional instructional day, what we are looking at is opportunities to fulfill the 9-hour minimum time period of programming with high-quality programs and high-quality people that will nurture the students of El Monte City. Now, what forms the backbone of this plan? California Department of Ed came up with some standards, and I promise to you that my promise to myself is to make sure to ensure fidelity to those standards, and I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple of them. There are 11 standards that form the basis, again, in the foundation of the ELOP plan. Key word for standard number 1 is nurturing. We know that the environment is a second teacher. However, we need to make sure, and we want to guarantee to the community and our parents of our children that we have nurturing programs that are supportive, safe, and welcoming. Number 1. Number 2, in terms of engagement, we want to make sure that, and we want to ensure that we fulfill our obligation to be project-based. That means that our students will benefit, and we believe that they will definitely benefit from cooperative learning opportunities such as STEM, STEAM, robotics, coding, and the like. The idea behind that is not just to build their memory, but to make memories. And in this world where we want to make sure that we focus on the whole child, it's not enough to focus on the hard skills, which is the academic side. As we saw from the SBAC presentation, we have a very strong foundation to build from. However, what we'd like to do is complement that with the soft skills, the collaboration, and perhaps most importantly, that our students are advocates for themselves and leaders, but also effective communicators. Standard 4, what we'd like to do is build on existing programs. For example, we already have a legacy building or built on Leader in Me programs, the Stephen Covey program. But more so than that, what we want to do is enrich it. Enrich that and engage the students in other leadership opportunities. For example, taking our students to ASB conferences at UC Santa Barbara, where they're able to mingle with students from across the state and perhaps the nation to build their voices and come back and contribute to the community. Standard 5, it really is for me, it speaks to our well-being. Not only our well-being social, emotionally, but our physical well-being, especially coming off of COVID. Well, we're still kind of technically in it, but coming off COVID and coming back in person, the physical fitness is going to be critical to us not just maintaining sanity, but also our students excelling and thriving. So we want to make sure that we provide opportunities, not just of programs where they're going to do some sit-ups and push-ups, but to engage our community with programs they might not otherwise be exposed to. For example, we are partnering with Southern California Golf Association. We have an 8-week program that we're going to be offering to our students. And by winter, the expectation is we will be teaching golf to our 5-year-olds all the way up to our 12-year-olds, meaning TK up to 8th grade. And that's a promise and commitment from Southern California Golf. And so I'm excited to provide that with our opportunities some of our students might not otherwise see for other reasons in terms of barriers, right? Economic barriers. So this is exciting. Standard 6, access and equity. So the plan, the ELOP plan, stipulates that we must offer TK to 6th grade to start so that we can expand to 7th and 8th. So that's our strategic goal. We're going to offer access and equity, and not just to traditional students. For example, if we say soccer, you might picture a boy. We're going to make sure that there's also gender equity. So access and equity to the full extent, and that speaks to fidelity, implementing these standards with fidelity. Standard 7 is really about the people, and obviously exhibited in here in this room. For example, Dr. Pinedo, Mr. Lopez Mena. These are high quality people, and we want to hire high quality staff that are going to serve our kids and nurture them, and not just collect a paycheck, but care about the community and what these students are able to produce. Not for themselves and not for their ego, but for the better of the community. So we're trying to keep an eye on that. Standard 8 really has to do with the board's mission and vision, and that is to innovate, again, and to provide programs of excellence. So we not only want global citizens, but it would be really nice to see our citizens come back and give backtail money the way some of you in this room have already done and continue to do. What a proud legacy that is already here. It really warms my heart to see that. Standard 9, this is the fun part, where we get to collaborate. I get to cold call. I get to network and talk to organizations, professional organizations, not just existing, right? Because this year we're bringing on Playworks and we're expanding Lego, but we're talking about partners that hopefully will stay in the community after the funding is gone. And so the funding is going to be for a period of time. However, I'd like to point out that we're not just trying to build partners with sports and nutrition and athletics, but we're looking at building and becoming stewards of higher education. Not only the CTE program at Rio Hondo, which is a diamond in the rough. I didn't know what they had there. They have so many Teslas. I just wanted to test drive one. But partnering with the universities from your junior colleges all the way up to your Stanfords and your Yales and your Ivy Leagues, so that our students have a chance to see before it's too late, meaning high school they graduate without a plan. We want to expose them beginning in TK all the way up, so that our students understand what's in it for them and what's at stake and what they can do to make this world a better place. Not graduate and go up to high school thinking, I don't know what pathway I'm going to be on. No, we want them to already know. You know what, I'm pretty good at this hands-on stuff. Why don't I try this pathway? So that's exciting. Standard 10 is about continuous quality improvement. And this really speaks to something that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad that Dr. Pinedo shared this during the principals retreat, and that is we need to be beholden to data-based decision-making processes. And that includes the fun part, which is the ELOP part. Just because we're doing expanded learning does not mean you take away the rigor. It does not mean that you do not base your decisions on data. More specifically, be responsive to the community. What is it the parents want for their children? What is it the parents need for their children? And what is it the kids are passionate about? These are the questions that I look forward to learning and asking about as I keep myself a student of the game and learn. I can't wait to get into the schools and help our staff and learn about what strengths we have so we can build a robust program. And Standard 11, really, program management is about those processes that we put in place, those routines that we want to become rituals. Meaning, are we consistent with our message? Are we clear? Is there clarity, right? Are we ourselves effective communicators of the mission and vision? And does our community understand how to get on board, right? And are we good at removing the barriers so that they can get on board and take it to another level? So that's program management. Final piece, passive consent. I owe it to Mr. Lopez Mena for teaching me how to not just make sure that we fulfill our commitment to the minimum standards, but make sure that our parents are 110% guaranteed access to the program. What that means is not doing the bare minimum and saying, oh, we offered it, put it on the website. That's the easy part. The problem-solving part is how do we make sure that they hear the message clearly, think about it, talk it over with their families, and then make a deliberate decision on what's the best direction for their families. That's what the passive consent is about, and we prepared it in all 4 languages, including Vietnamese, to go out possibly with your blessing if you approve the plan. Again, I appreciate your time and consideration, right? This is not a guarantee that you will pass it, just thank you for your consideration. But if it's passed, we have a way to ensure that our parents understand the, again, monumental opportunity before them. And we're still growing it, by the way. It's something that we're continuing to partner with, especially when it comes to programs like Parks and Rec, where we're bringing them in to the fold possibly by spring with huge programs that I can't share yet because we're still developing them, but we met with them, and I'm excited about the possibilities. So thank you for allowing me to share regarding the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program that we'd like to propose you consider for El Monte City School District, and we believe that it will keep our promise of delivering for our kids the best programs possible while we continue to innovate and pivot, right, as we evolve with the needs of the students and the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this amazing presentation. I mean, it really deserves a standing ovation. I can hear the excitement from you, and I'm excited as well. So, any questions coming from the board at this time?
I defer to the ladies first.
Okay. I know it's in the more detailed plan, but I was wondering if you could just kind of speak to the students that you're going to be targeting, who's going to have access to this, and when they're going to access the program.
Great question. So the passive consent really speaks to that. With a passive consent, every student currently enrolled and that enrolled in El Monte City School District will have automatic access to programming. Wow. Versus sort of like ACES or 21st Century, where you apply and you wait to get in, and does it fit your schedule? Do I have to stay till 6 o'clock? This opportunity addresses the need of the child and the family first and foremost. So if a student would like to participate a la carte and only attend the STEAM programming and not do the Soccer for Success or the Parks and Recreation, they can do that. And so as long as they're enrolled in the Monte City School District, they automatically have access to this programming. Now, the challenge becomes, how do we know who's here and who's not, right? So we have a solution for that. Because we are partnered with Learn, they actually are just bringing on board an attendance software that allows us to track attendance real time. We can scan students with the barcode. We know who shows up. We scan them again, their barcode when they leave. They don't have a tattoo. It's a card that they have, right? And we scan, so we keep track of who's in session. When they show up, I may only want or need Mondays. My colleague or fellow student may want to be here all 5 days a week. This provides that flexibility, minimum 9 hours, as early as 6:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. Learn, 21st Century, ACES, and now ELAP.
I'm
All
really
under
excited, yeah.
expanded learning opportunities. And just a quick list of some of those things. So Windtree Education that we're partnering with is one of the many agencies. We're launching with digital art, studio art, and electrical engineering just to start the year. Students will have access to all 3 modules during the same week. And then we have other modules that after 8 weeks will come on board, and we'll give them access to those as well.
That's great. I'm really excited. I mean, I think this is an amazing program for us. Is there going to be any limit to the number of students we can serve in any particular program?
Very good question. And so one of the things that everyone is facing, including school districts, is staffing. So it really is limited to our capacity of fulfilling those spots or supports. But the reality is that if staffing is not an issue, every student can participate. So we anticipate getting there at some point.
Yeah.
And that speaks to also being competitive when we hire, and that's part of that process.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Segrist.
You triggered a lot of memory banks. Number one, you mentioned golf. I was a professional caddy. I was 12, 14 years. I was driving the golf cart, picking up the golf balls on the range. I caddied for the top 2 women professionals in the world, Beverly Hanson and Mickey Wright. I have to say this, sadly, I even caddied for Charlie Sifford. You all know about Tiger Woods. Charlie Sifford preceded him. He was the first African-American allowed to be in the PGA. So golf for me is incredible for kids. People say this, and it's still true. Businesses are bought and sold on the golf course, and they still are. I noticed you had Rio Hondo there. I would encourage you, Rio Hondo College, to talk to Dr. Erica Endejones, the president of Pasadena City College. That's our other community college, and she's interested in working with us. Fortuitously, I was at the community center today, and I found that the Parks and Recreation are looking for children from 4th to 8th grade to volunteer to work in the programs after school. And so you really got a lot of things going that, in my mind, this is exciting stuff for kids because the world is bigger now than it ever was, and the opportunities are there. So this is a wonderful, thank you so much for reminding me about golf. My dream, if Dr. Garcia can push it, is have a putting green on every one of our schools. My garage,
Time
I've
for
got
the
about
master's facility plan
25
update.
putters sitting there doing nothing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Segrist. Mrs. Rivas.
Thank you. Very excited. This is wonderful for our students. My question is, these are wonderful opportunities. Do these opportunities extend into the summertime?
I think you read the plan. Thank you for the question. So this opportunity, this grant, which by the way should be ongoing, and there really isn't a sunset at the moment, which is so exciting. This calls for before school, after school, summer, and intersession. 30 days when school is not in session, that we're off, we are providing programming. So 30 days that families need engagement, enrichment, we're going to be providing that. This summer, we had the luxury of piloting our ELAP with our Savior Center, and we had a fabulous program there that was 9 hours from 7:30 to 4:30 for our kiddos. And so they showed that this is definitely doable, and we will continue to partner with them because they're currently one of our partners through ACES. We're going to partner with them so that they can provide their great programming during intersession and summers as well.
Thank you for that. Our equity committee, I'm sure, will be reconvening soon, and I've become very, very aware of a gap. And I'm not trying to say anything about the schools or the cities or anything, but it just seems to be pretty generally true that there's a gap in opportunities, particularly summer, of course, for our older students, right? Parks and Rec has so much programming throughout the summer. for younger students, but our older students are too young to volunteer places, but too old for some of the Parks and Rec programming. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I've talked to moms from many different cities who've said the same thing. What am I supposed to do? I want my kid to be doing something. What can I do, right? So, and then besides, to your point, just the need for care for the kids and programming, fruitful programming during those intercession and summer months. I'm just very happy about what this will mean to kids and families. So thank you.
Could
Mr.
I add
Stevens.
one more thing? I encourage you to network with the Tiger Woods Foundation in Orange County. Tiger Woods Foundation offers a science program in the summer. And also, I hope you'll help support protecting the three-par golf course in Arcadia. There's a movement to tear it down and build homes on it, which is incredible because it's been there forever. But golf is a powerful outlet, and getting children into that, the discipline, when you have to make sure that ball goes in the hole. I had to teach my grandson, no, you don't go and grab it and take it out. You got to get it in there. Thank you so much. But the Tiger Woods Foundation, check it out.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Mendez.
Yeah, thank you
Garcia.
so much for the presentation, and welcome to the district, Mr. Muniz. No, it's really exciting to see. We can hear your enthusiasm. I think what I was comparing it to is our summer program, right? Summer school was traditionally, right, for a limited amount of students, and it was just had a very laser focus maybe for students who needed remediation. But as we've expanded our programs, we see that students are signing up and teachers are signing up. So I know it's going to happen, that as soon as we start expanding these programs, we're going to see the students come and we're going to see the staff that we need. So thank you.
Yeah, so we had over 100 students at Doris Dan this summer in enrichment and engagement activities. They weren't tied to intervention because we know that there are students that need the intervention and there are others that need the enrichment and engagement. And so it was a great way to pilot that this summer, and it was super successful, and we will continue to do that. Now, let's also remember that this is a work in progress. This is our launch, and it's going to take time to get it so that it's as robust as we'd like it to be, but we have to have a starting point, and we've done that this summer.
You have 6 months, that's it.
I thank you to my colleagues on the board and to an amazing presentation, as I mentioned. And you did mention something that really stood out to me. Of course, highlighting the high-quality professionals that we have, including you both, Dr. Teresa Pinelo, everyone, the cabinet, Dr. Garcia, and absolutely, we definitely see the excitement, the commitment, and based on today's presentations as well, so that really sets the tone to our El Monte City School District. So thank you, and as you mentioned, this is a monumental opportunity, an opportunity for our students to engage, right, in something that perhaps they haven't, right, engaged. And you were mentioning a few things, and I remember sometimes as adults, you know, just as you were presenting, I was reflecting, and we might say things such as, "Oh, I don't like to do that. I don't like to do such thing." But it's because we've really never been exposed to it, right? And we grow up with that mentality of, I don't like it, right? But I'm so glad that our children are going to be exposed to this at such young age. So thank you so much for that.
If I may also, just one thing, we're also looking for wins, meaning we have an amazing gem. You guys, I'm sure you all know him, Pedro Galindo. He's a teacher here. Okay, this gentleman and his team had a program in the past that was for GATE, essentially GATE only. What we're looking at with ELOP is taking that and blowing the doors off, and let's make it access and equitable for all students. Yeah. Why should our GATE students be the only ones experiencing Lego League and Math Field Day from LACO? That should be district-wide. So we're trying to find win-wins, use existing staff, be creative, whether it's classified or certificated, so we can meet the demand so that it's not just a barrier like, well, there's not enough staff and we can't find enough partners. What about the existing gyms that are already here? We have them. We use them actually for the summer program at Rio Hondo. We had parent liaisons help us serve as chaperones so that 2 busloads of kids could go make solar cars. So we're also looking for that win-win. Existing established veteran professionals here that have the relationships with the kids, because that's what's going to keep the kids coming back, is the relationship. Programs go away. People don't forget the way you make them feel, which I learned that from someone very near and dear to my heart over here. And you want to make that lasting impression. Again, not just work on their working memory, but have them make memories.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other additional questions, comments? Thank you so much again. Thank you and welcome again, Mr. Muniz. Thank you so much, Mr. Lopez Mena. Wow, I'm excited. Perfect. And moving on now to our item number 3, consideration of approval to adopt Resolution 22-2301, celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, 2022. Dr. Pineda?
Actually, before we do, I think we need to vote on the plan.
That is correct, Mrs. Kupian. Yes, thank you so much. Okay. So going back to item number 2, do we have a motion for item number 2?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Kupian. You see all the excitement and everything. Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Any discussion?
Oh, yes, there is. I think that it might be added a little bit, the names around here that happen to be Spanish, El Monte, San Gabriel, the fact that we have so many names that are part of our culture in this community and throughout the United States. So just as an idea, you might put some names in there, street names and so on. Santa Anita and the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now moving on to item number 3, consideration of approval to adopt Resolution 22-2301, celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, 2022. Dr. Pinedo.
Thank you, President Ruedas. Governing Board, before you is Resolution 22-2301, celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th, 2022. California is home to more than 3 million Hispanic students from kindergarten through grade 12. During Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the contributions and the important presence of Hispanic and Latino Americans to the United States and celebrate the group's heritage and culture. Hispanics have had a profound and positive influence on our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and service. The theme for 2022 is Unidos, Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation.
Thank you, Dr. Pinedo. Okay, with that said, do we have a motion for item number 3?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Sechrist. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, continuing with item number 4, consideration of approval to adopt Resolution 22-2302, celebration of National Literacy Month in September 2022. Dr. Pinedo.
President Ruedas and Governing Board, before you is Resolution 22-2302, celebration of National Literacy Month in September 2022. Proclaiming September as National Literacy Month brings awareness to our nation's literacy needs. Literacy is a foundation block of human development that builds community development and leads to an economically, educationally, and politically developed country.
Thank you, Dr. Pinedo. Do we have a motion to approve item number 4?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Any discussion?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is an attack on certain writers in this country people were brought up with Dr. Seuss, Mark Twain, and even some of the universities across the United States are canceling Shakespeare as part of the curriculum. So when we celebrate literacy, I say put everything out there, let people pick and choose what they want to read, and don't say, oh, we have to pull this out of the library because Dr. Seuss used some words in there that we don't like. Let people pick and choose and have freedom. That's what the First Amendment says. Thank you. I love this literacy idea. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 5, consideration of approval of declaration of need for the fully qualified educators for the 2022-2023
Yes.
school year.
President
Solomon.
Redas, Governing Board, before you for consideration of approval is our declaration of needs. We're bringing this item back a second time, hence why we listed at the top of the document as revised for this year. And this is due to new requirements where we must list the universities that we work with for the intern credentialed teachers we've hired. Not a requirement in previous years, but because we have hired some intern credentials, whether it be for our intervention teacher positions or for classroom, that piece of the Declaration of Needs document must be completed. So we're bringing it back, listing all of the universities that we work with, just to cover anything in case we were to have to hire someone mid-year. We're sort of covered in advance.
Thank you for that information. Mr. Sollenbach, do we have a motion for item number 5?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Rivas. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And lastly, item number 6, consideration of approval of substitute hourly stipend rates effective July 1st, 2022. Mr. Sollenbach.
President Redas, Governing Board, what I am bringing before you for consideration of approval tonight is to continue our temporary increase to our substitute rates for this coming school year. Last year, I believe it was probably at the October Board of Education meeting where we raised them temporarily for that school year. And this is due just to the demand and need for substitutes. Just some background, while we have a large pool of substitutes within our system, the large majority of our substitutes actually work for multiple districts. And so on any given day, they might work for us and then another district and so on. And as districts started utilizing their funds last year, and we're starting to see that again this year, to hire intervention teachers and other support roles, our pool initially at the start of the year seems to dwindle. And so rather than waiting, we felt that it was probably the best interest of the district to just keep our rates the same and to be able to retain and attract potentially more substitute teachers. And so we push that information out to our current subs, and then we utilize that in our job postings that we had listed. And it's been helping us actually bring in some more substitutes. So the consideration tonight is just to continue that temporary increase through this school year. So that way we're able to fill those vacancies when our teachers are out.
Thank you, Mr. Sollenbach. Do we have a motion to approve item number 6?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Cobian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez Garcia. Any discussion?
Yes. A substitute teacher in the district said that she's getting $130. And she's saying that's not competitive with other districts. How much are we paying now for substitutes?
We've been paying the 180 all year, so I please have them reach out to me and we can double check it. But
Okay.
Even prior to last year, we were already at 145.
So that was false information I got from this substitute teacher. Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah,
All right,
we're
thank
at
you.
180 daily rate and 210 for long-term assignments, which is hopefully is above most of the neighboring districts until they figure it out and maybe increase theirs. But yeah, we haven't been at 130, I would say, for at least 6 years.
I have total confidence in what you do because I know what you do. Hard work, and you always up to date on everything. Thank you. Bye.
And I have a question also. Just was wondering, the making it a temporary increase versus permanent. What's the background for that?
Well, the thought process is that it is a little higher rate, but it does attract. And so our decision last year when we chose the 180 and 210 was we actually matched San Gabriel, one of our neighboring districts, which was the very first district to increase because they were starting to see it right away. And so we jumped on it right away as well, and I believe the high school sort of jumped on. And then some of our other districts, they sort of paused and waited Sometimes they sort of, sneered at us, like, kind of like, why are you doing that to us? And then they came in later, and then it went higher than us, actually. So, we talked about the idea of when the school year was coming up, mid-year last year, we were talking about, could we actually go back to our 145 that we've been at, and still be competitive with inflation and so on? Maybe not. Maybe it would be a little higher than 145. But then looking at our hiring this over the summer, and as every time I signed a contract for an intervention teacher or so on, Alejandra, our substitute person, she'd look at me going, "You just took another sub," So we're seeing that as well. And so the 180 just is consistent with what we've done. Hopefully, it's kind of what our neighbors will continue to do, out of respect for each other, right? Because we're dealing with the same people. And then next year, if we have that sufficient staffing, then we'll talk internally about what is the actual rate that we should continue permanent, ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sollenbach? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Continue on with our discussion session to our cabinet reports. I'll pass it over to Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, President Redas and governing board members. Every month we have the opportunity to share some updates with you, and we always try to convey the wonderful things that are happening throughout the district. And so moving forward, we'd like to put some pictures behind some of the wonderful things that we're doing, because I think there's a saying that a picture tells a million or a
Thousand
thousand
words,
Words.
1,000.
Thank
But
you. I was
with
gonna say
inflation, it could be a million now. So
1,000 words. And so what we did is we just put together our normal updates, but we're illustrating and highlighting some of the things that we're going to share with you this evening. So I'll go ahead and get started. We're here. It's the start of the 22-23 school year. Earlier this morning, I was in this room. It was filled with our wonderful staff from nutrition services. And I said to them, this is a historic year in many ways. Here we are. We're still wearing masks. We know that that's going to sunset soon. But at the end of the day, we've been through a lot together, and we've survived together. And so our theme this year is Together We Rise, because it represents what we did, where we are now, and what we will continue to do. And so the very first image, I think you skimmed right through it, Mr. Dasmati. I want to go back because, one of our hiring practices here is just to hire good-looking people. So as you can tell there, that's our wonderful management team that has just been leading a lot of the work throughout the district, all of the initiatives, and every single, with every turn in the pandemic, this is the team that was responsible for making the best decisions to meet the needs of our family. This picture captures the end of our professional development for administrators. We invited the management team to be a part of that, and we stepped outside and took a picture. Next slide is just every month, Edna does a wonderful job of bringing forth some artwork from different parts of the district, whether it's school sites. And so I just want to acknowledge the work that Edna does. She does more than just collect art, I'll say that, and I think you all know it. But today's art, if you have a few minutes after the board meeting to see some of the artwork, is displayed courtesy of our summer parent program participants who participate in the Latino Family Literacy Program and the RAR Summer Learning Adventures. So this is artwork that was put together by students and families that participated. Just really beautiful to see. So in today's update, I'm going to share with you a little bit about Columbia and just some exciting, we're celebrating their 100-year anniversary. I'm going to encourage you to drive by the school, and we'll get to that. Welcome back, first day of school. A little bit about Cal Kids, and I know Mrs. Cobian mentioned it earlier. Update on our school facilities, summer meals, our COVID protocols, COVID test kits. Our new EMCSD employees, the supports that we're going to kick off the year with and continue to provide for staff and students. A little bit about our summer professional development, and then our theme, Together We Rise. So happy birthday, Columbia School, 100 years. There's an aerial, a shot of the school from 1924. It's the logo that was there when I was a school principal that we designed together back in 2008. And just a reminder, if you look very closely, the Masonic Lodge still has that entrance, right? So they were able to salvage that from the school. But all that to say that we're so excited. It's going to be a year long of celebrations for Columbia School. And Columbia School is setting the tone because after that, we'll be celebrating Cortada, Potrero. I mean, we have a list of schools that are going to be nearing their 100th birthday. We're going to kick it off on Wednesday, the first day of school on Wednesday, August 18th. Columbia is having a full-blown celebration as they welcome students back. And then I'll be sharing with the board a list of dates that they've put together where they're going to invite the community to come into the school site and be a part of those celebrations. And the board, of course, we will ask for you to consider participating. We are in the process of giving our logos a little bit of a makeover. And that image there captures, the modernization that's taking place at Columbia. But I want to just really highlight the logo that you see there. We're working with the graphic designer. If you want to switch on, there you go. Working with the graphic designer to give an update and modernize all of our logos. So really exciting. I think there's going to be an opportunity to revisit some of the logos that have been that it's just time to kind of change the names and look at revisit colors and so forth. We're starting with some of the easier ones, and we'll get to the others. And then finally, the final product will be for us to revisit our district logo. We started down that path, and we weren't quite ready, but here we are. It's 2022-23, a historical year, and so there's going to be an opportunity for us to really revisit our district logo. But just to give you an example of what this process looks like, I'm so thrilled and excited for this new logo, and then just once again celebrating Columbia's 100 years. Last week, Columbia hosted a splash event over at the Aquatic Center, where they invited families. They rented out the Aquatic Center, and they invited families to come meet the new principals. And they offered a nice little dinner, and families were able to just show up to the Aquatic Center from 7 to 9 p.m. Kids were able to swim. As you know, it's still 90 degrees at 7 o'clock. and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. As a reminder, on Wednesday, we'll have our welcome back breakfast. This is a wonderful tradition that we all hold near and dear to our hearts. And, the fact that we haven't been able to do it for the past 2 years makes this one really special. Our entire facilities team, IT team, Robert, everybody's been involved in just making sure that we can provide the proper spacing. And we're going to be hosting our schools and all of our staff and all of our departments in both the cafeteria and the gymnasium. We're going to have some, assigned seating so that we're able to be in there safely. We're requiring masks, everyone. We'll have the filtration systems, and we'll be able to, with the technology, we'll be together in one space on the campus. So I would like to formally invite the board to join us. We're going to have a guest speaker, Brian Medler. He was actually here with our teachers a few weeks ago. Talking about how to work and connect with kids. And many teachers approached us and said, gosh, this is the message that we all need to hear. And so Dr. Pinedo, one of her first decisions as Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services was to make sure that Brian can join us for that this morning and deliver a wonderful keynote address about how to connect with our students. And of course, the first day of school is Thursday, August the 18th. We're so excited about that. And I think some of you participated in the back to school resource fair on Saturday. Just the excitement in the community can be felt, and really, looking forward to a new school year. CalKids is just this wonderful opportunity and investment that Governor Newsom is made available to all students in California. So this is a brand new launch that will give parents some additional funds to start college savings accounts. And I know it's work that's near and dear to our hearts, tied to the Almani Promise Foundation. And so we're going to be looking at ways to really promote this information so that we can share details with our families, make sure that our community liaisons are up to date and up to speed with CalKids. The idea is that we want all of our families to access this money. Making investments in college education or college savings accounts, we know have tremendous outcomes, 7 times more likely to attend college if there's a college savings account. So we're really excited to see this, and we're going to be promoting that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Garcia. Our facilities team, our custodial team, our grounds team, they've been hard at work this summer, preparing for our students to come back on Thursday of later this week. It was a bit of a challenge, right, with running summer school at all 14 sites, right? Our ability to get in and do some projects at the schools was impacted somewhat, so we had to get creative with the scheduling. But nonetheless, they accomplished it. Happy to report that all of our classrooms, carpets were cleaned. Some of the things that are a little bit more visible from the exterior, like pressure washing. If you go into our gyms, our hallways, our cafeterias, we've waxed the floors there as seen there. As we always do each summer, we go ahead and maintenance our HVAC systems, right? And then we also went ahead and changed out the filters on those HVAC units, right? We know that ventilation is always important and has become even more important during the pandemic. In addition, changing out all of the HEPA filters in our classrooms, right? Because we know that coronavirus is still in the air, unfortunately. So as we move on to the next slide there, our food services team was also hard at work this past summer as well, right? In comparison to the 6 or 7 million meals that we passed out the first few years of the pandemic, with some of these waivers expiring and going back to more normal operations, you can see there we served just shy of 3 million meals in this past school year. And we continue the feeding over the summer, providing daily meals at all of our 14 school sites that were operating summer session. After summer school ended, we were happy to take advantage of some waivers that were late breaking, but we were ready to take full advantage of that, and we continued the feeding model through the remainder of summer after summer school ended, up until I want to say last week was our last meal distribution. We're passing out weekly meal kits to all residents 18 and under. So we served about over 100,000 meals during the summer of 2022, and we're ready to welcome all the kids back later this week with a special meal for them.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera. Dr. Pineda?
I think, is this one yours?
Actually, it's
Yes,
mine.
yes.
So
Mr. Solomon.
We're out of order.
we're out of, we're going to be
Okay,
jumping
no
around.
problem.
So we're going to keep
No
you on your
problem.
toes tonight. And so as we prepare for our return, obviously, our message is, we're sort of viewing it as a pre-pandemic return to a lot of our in-person activities, but still following the guidance of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. But we also remind everyone that we've always had to follow the guidance of Los Angeles Department of Public Health. It's never been as noticeable as it has been, through a pandemic, obviously, right? So as we return, we still have our safety protocols in place. One of the biggest ones that we have shared is the fact that we will continue our masking indoors through September 9th. While it's still optional, Los Angeles County Department of Public Health says it's a strong recommendation. So we're going with that strong recommendation to start our school year, and with the idea that after that date, it will be optional. Our messaging to our families and our community will be done in a manner where we really want to highlight the fact that it's still okay to wear a mask. Last thing we want to do is make someone feel as if they can't wear a mask if that's what they choose. And I think that's all in the messaging. So as we begin to prepare for that date, obviously those messages will go out with the support of wearing masks, still inside of our classrooms. Our temperature scanning at our school entrances will begin at the start of the school year, and we'll continue, and we'll just monitor that as we go through. It's not necessarily a requirement, nor is it a strong recommendation any longer, but because we've made some investments and we know that it's something that allows our families to feel comfortable as another measure to look for those that are exhibiting symptoms, we felt it was important to continue as well. Our daily sanitation and disinfection of rooms in terms of wiping down desks and so on will continue. We have, since last spring, continued to go above and beyond the required recommendations for our cleaning. And then we had started our fogging of our classrooms, and we were doing that on Fridays, and we will continue that as well. the ability to provide PPE for all of our students, whether it's masks, hand sanitizers, and so on, we will continue. We have a great supply in our warehouse of various masks to ensure that our students and our staff have everything they need, which also includes the KN95, which is just a little higher level. And then something we've been able to do, and at times we sort of had to probably persuade the Department of Public Health to continue allowing us to do, is that individual contact tracing, where they do allow that group approach, where if someone in the room tested positive, then we would all be considered close contacts under the new. But we continue to use that 6-foot rule, because then we can actually identify better who actually is a close contact. And number two in that is we're able to make those phone calls to those families or those employees and advise them as next steps on what they need to do. Right. The other part of that is our COVID test kits. Last year, we were very proactive in securing COVID test kits when they weren't available. And so this summer, we continued to do that. We actually had dropped off COVID test kits at all of our school sites for our staff and our families as well. So there will be messaging going out from various admin in regards to how families can come to their school sites within the next couple of days. Some of them have events planned already, so timing was perfect, but make it available for any families that want to. The fact that we still have a good supply. So once those went out the last few days, we still have enough test kits in our warehouse to still give out to every single student. But what that means is we have a good supply to start our school year, because as we continue to see COVID cases, we're able to provide those test kits to those families or those employees, so that way they can test themselves as well. And then we just entered into an agreement with Haluna Health. It's through the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And that gives us the ability to continue to get over-the-counter tests whenever we need to. Last year, it was we would get them from the state through the county, but now the agreement for the coming school year is that we have to work with Haluna Health, which is in the City of Industry, and that we still have access to the over-the-counter rapid tests, which is interesting as you look through all the documentation that comes up on the county health. We see recommendations now to actually look at rapid tests over PCR tests to really gauge COVID positivity rates, but also to tell you whether someone's contagious at that moment as well. And then finally, we started to welcome our new EMCSD family members. And so tonight on the routine monthlies for the classified and certificated staff, there were quite a few new hires in there. Some of them were some of our temporary teachers that signed contracts again for the coming school year. But what you see in the pictures are some of our certificated staff on the top, and then some of our counselors on the bottom that we were able to hire. And so Educational Services held a new teacher training last week, and our child welfare and attendance met with all of the new counselors, and then the counselors that were already working for us, and then started going over expectations and introducing them to all things El Monte City School District as we prepare to get them ready for the first day of school.
Dr.
So, oops, sorry.
Now, Dr. Bruno.
Thank you. We are pleased to offer social emotional supports for our students, our student wellness. We've hired more counselors so that we have one counselor or social worker per site, which is very exciting. We are utilizing the second step curriculum with our counselors as a tier 2 support for students who need that. And we are also training our counselors on, oh my gosh, I just lost them.
The second step, or?
No, not the second step. It'll come back to me. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. In terms of employee wellness, we have continued our contract with EASE through the LA County Office of Education. And this provides employees and their immediate household a variety of services, including confidential counseling. Restorative practices, that's what it is. Yes. So back to student wellness and counselors providing that support at the sites. Counselors and other staff members will be trained in restorative practices, including site administrators to utilize with students and really ensuring that relationship, that strong relationship and support for students and staff members. We had a very productive and busy summer this year. We offered professional development opportunities for our teachers. We offered a CGI refresher for teachers who had been trained in the past, maybe kind of, needed a little refresher, they weren't too sure about CGI, so they wanted just to try it one more time. So we had about 60 participants in that. As Dr. Garcia mentioned, we had a guest speaker, Brian Mendler, come in and worked with our teachers around engaging, motivating, and managing hard-to-reach students. We had about 100 participants attend that. We partnered with UCLA. Again, we have a new adoption, and so we really want to make sure that teachers feel we build their capacity in the understanding the next generation science standards. So we had training for them, for our K through 5 teachers, about 90 participants. We did send out a survey to teachers asking them what it was that they would like to receive professional development in, and one of their number one things was writing. And so we offered Step Up to Writing for them, and we had a lot of participants from kinder through 8th grade. And then our TOSAs, we have a math team of TOSAs that are focused on small group instruction in math and setting up math for success with students. So really the first days of instruction and small group instruction in math. Over the summer, it was for grades 3 through 5, and we had about 80 participants. And our TK teachers attended a training with a consultant for reimagining our TK, which I had presented to you in the spring.
So that concludes our updates for this evening. I do want to highlight again, once again, our theme, Together We Rise. It's really appropriate, I feel, for once again, where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. And I do want to take this opportunity to also acknowledge Robert Dasmati, who has been so wonderful and has really helped us to shape so many of our presentations, and then really has, changed the way we present ourselves to the community. And so he came up with this, the logo there for this year, which is really exciting, and has helped us to put together these presentations that we hope that, again, pictures tell a million words, I'll just say. I know it's 1,000 words, but thank you, Robert, and that's our update for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia, and thank you to the entire cabinet for your updates. And definitely, and of course, Mr. Dasmati, thank you so much, and for all the work that you all do into keeping our El Monte City School District the way it is. It's risen, and then obviously together it'll be more. So, looking forward to that. So, any questions, comments from the board at this time? None. Okay, perfect. Well, moving on to our future discussion items. Any board members would like to bring any future items?
I have one.
Sure, Mr. Segrist.
I forgot to mention, I attended a forum on Saturday called the Water Education for Latino Leaders, put on by Miss Cindy Wu. And there was a mention about Norwood School having some type of water preservation or something, and also South El Monte. So I don't know what that was. It was a wonderful experience, by the way, to be there. Even one of the presenters was a professor from Caltech that talked about water, and our assemblyman from the area was there also giving a talk on water. The fact that it was mentioned, by the way, a lot of you may not know this, but at one time the water level here was so high they had to move the cemetery to Rosemead because the water was interfering with the cadavers. Yeah. And I did mention the fact that in Mexico, a long time ago, they were concerned about water. There's a little god called Tlaloc, who's a big god, I guess, the god of water and rain. And they were talking about this at this forum about the drought. I didn't know that El Monte now has a limitation on watering your yard. You're only allowed 2 days a week. So you got to be real careful. we really need to check it out. I think it may apply to the schools. One question came up during the forum. You know, the toilets that use very little water, do we use those in our school district? That, I was supposed to come back and report on that. To save water, because we're in a drought now and it's going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Sure, go ahead, Mrs. Colbion.
Yeah, I just had two things that came to me, maybe for a future cabinet report. One is how it went with the libraries being open this summer. Just if students showed up and the kinds of programming that we had. And then the other was a community member asked me at the Back to School Resource Fair about the Fiesta of Books, and so what our plans are with that as well. And that was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Colbion.
I forgot to just tailor that with, I'd like an update on Norwood School, what we're doing with it. That's really the focus of what I started with, and I got off the track. But I'd like an update on Norwood School, what's happening there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Any other future discussion items? No? None? Okay, perfect. So now we'll move on. I think we're ready now to adjourn our meeting today at 7:45 p.m. Thank you.
I have, before you leave, I have a list of back to school nights. I know that they're on your calendar, but I thought it might be easy to just see them. And then please let me know if you're planning on attending. I'd like to just give principals a heads up to be on the lookout for you. And then also we have some parking passes, not that you need them, but we thought it'd be really easy for you to just put them on your dashboard and then drive in Wednesday morning. We have some designated parking for you, and then it'll be easy for you to drive